President Donald Trump had a meeting with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa that ended up being pretty awkward at times. Oh boy. The first awkward point happened when he was asked about the cuts to foreign aid programs, which, by the way, yes, a lot of foreign aid has been frozen or stopped by this administration, except for one, Israel. Yeah. So Israel still getting foreign aid. Yeah. Now, Trump told a reporter, quote, "It's devastating." His own cuts. And hopefully a lot of people are going to start spending a lot of money. I've talked to other nations. We want them to chip in and spend money too. And we spend a lot. And it's a tremendous problem going on in many countries. A lot of problems going on. The United States always gets a request for money. Nobody else helps. Wait, hold on. No, nobody else helps with foreign aid. Really? That's not true. Okay, let's get to the numbers. In 2023, while the U.S. donated about $9.5 billion in humanitarian aid worldwide, yes, the United States gives the most out of anyone to, foreign aid, in foreign aid. Other countries do donate money. All right. In fact, the European Commission donated about $2.1 billion in 2023. Germany donated $2 billion in foreign aid. The UK, $754 million. Japan, $685 million. Norway, $641 million. Canada, yes, our friends to the north, which are, yes, they're obviously kind of mad at us right now for understandable reasons, right? And I love our Canadian friends. They donated $577 million. France donated $549 million. Sweden donated $434 million. That's just humanitarian aid, by the way. Okay, it's humanitarian foreign aid. Now, when it comes to other forms of foreign aid, the U.S., of course, also gives a lot of money. The rest of the world also gives a lot of money. Now, a lot of the recipients right now of that non-humanitarian foreign aid happens to be going to places like Ukraine, as well as, of course, Israel. Yeah. At the end of the day, though, yes, it is true that the United States is the largest donor of foreign aid in the world. Okay. Now, why is that? It's not because the world is taking advantage of us or anything like that. No, it's because we're the world's only superpower and currently the wealthiest country in the world. Okay. In fact, as a percentage of GDP, American foreign aid spending actually ranks near the bottom compared to other developed countries. You know, those other countries that have been giving foreign aid as well? Yeah. We may give a lot more than other countries in, pure dollar figures, right? But when it comes to our GDP, that's actually a drop in the bucket. Whereas the other countries who are giving foreign aid, they actually do give more of themselves, okay? And so I think that's an important point, because that really is kind of what rich people do in regards to, giving to charity, for example, right? So rich people give, a big chunk of money, we're going to give that to charity and then do a tax write-off, right? And look, not only is it a tax write-off, but it's good PR for those rich people. And it's essentially chump change to them, okay? You get a billionaire that gives $100,000 to a charity, barely anything for them. It's barely anything for them. So, that said, right, for the U.S., you got to understand, too, a lot of our foreign aid is not unconditional, right? U.S. aid, for example, is often used to exert what they call soft power. Now, I would rather have soft power than hard power, which involves bombs. Yes, and we certainly do a lot of that too, all right? But this soft power, yes, generally does go to help a lot of people. In fact, when it comes to South Africa, the U.S. actually spent about $500 million on aid for that country in 2023, right? And that's mostly on healthcare, by the way. That's according to the most recent data. That said, thanks to Trump, that most of that funding's gone. Okay, and there's going to be some serious health impacts. In fact, the cuts have already had an effect on the country's response to the HIV epidemic. South Africa has the world's highest burden of HIV cases, with about 8 million people, or 1 in 5 adults, living with that virus. Now, our aid funding was helping with about 17% of the country's HIV budget before our cuts. And in the months since, after the cuts, testing and monitoring of HIV patients across South Africa has went down, obviously, because they don't have the money to be able to keep up with it. So as a result, people are going to get sicker and they're going to die as a result, which is devastating to the people who, live there, obviously. But not that Donald Trump cares, okay? Because they really don't. Here's the thing, though. Trump is basically acting like your average rich person, okay? That's because it's what he is, or allegedly, okay? And he's doing so in the way of telling poorer countries that aren't as rich as us that they should be paying a lot more. Well, and it's not to benefit the people living here, right? Oh, no, we don't have enough money to keep giving to foreign aid. We should be spending it here, right? But they're actually not spending it here. They're telling poor Americans as well that they should be paying more for things like healthcare or the tariffs. I mean, it's a great example. Tariffs. That is literally a tax on us. It's getting average people to pay more. Not only that, but you have the so-called big, beautiful bill, right? Which has hundreds of billions of dollars in Medicaid cuts and food stamp cuts and even Medicare cuts that are involved in it, okay? And with that, Trump is shifting, and the GOP, they're shifting the cost burden of those things onto the poorest people, all right? Just like with the pulling back of foreign aid, they're shifting the cost burden onto the poorest countries in the world so that the rich here can pay even less. And ultimately, that's what it's about. Okay? Now, that's not all. All right? As I said, this got pretty awkward. And I've got a video here for you. See, while Ramaphosa was there, Trump decided to show the South African president what he really cares about. Because remember, they thought, we're going to be here, we're going to be discussing trade, right? That's it. We're here to discuss trade. But in reality, Trump was there to show Ramaphosa videos and conspiracy theories about supposed white genocide. Yes, that's right. Which is not happening. In fact, he even forced the president to watch an edited video that purported to show evidence of mass murder targeting white Afrikaner farmers, and then presented him with stacks of news article printouts alleging this conspiracy.
These are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that
I think anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently. Well, I can do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given.
First question.
You are so bad. You're such a bad reporter.
If you're committing genocide, why invite them? Seriously, why invite them South Africa?
This is one after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking. But we have a very corrupt media. They won't even report this. If this were the other way around, it would be the biggest story. Now, I will say, apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest story. That was reported all the time. This is sort of the opposite of apartheid. What's happening now is never reported. Nobody knows about it. All we know is we're being inundated with people, with white farmers from South Africa, and it's a big problem.
It's a big problem, except that it's not. It's not a real problem. Look, I love when he was thumbing through that, all the stacks of papers that he has. It's all New York Post, Daily Mail, mainly Murdoch-owned media, which should tell you something. Okay, look, all of those sources should be, discarded, mainly because one of the biggest Murdoch-owned media sources, that's Fox News, had to admit in court that they lied to their viewers. So, yeah, they really shouldn't be taken seriously at all, not by a serious person. They've even said, no, no reasonable person would ever actually take what we say seriously. Yeah. Not only that, but again, you actually have literal studies that have shown that claims of white genocide are just completely false. Now, is there a crime problem in South Africa? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay. But the notion that white people are being targeted and persecuted simply because of their skin color, it's just not true. It's just not true at all. Likely, they're being robbed because they're the only ones that have any money. Okay. And that's because they stole it with their racist apartheid policies, which prevented black residents from even owning farmland. That's it. Look, the percent of murders in South Africa is pretty high, about 27,000 a year. But the victims are not white farmers. They are young black men in poorer areas of the country. Okay, that's who's dying from this violence. Okay. Now, Trump does not care about that at all. But the murder of farmers is actually less than 1% of all the cases. That's the reality. That's it. That's it. And look, according to the Transvaal Agricultural Union of South Africa, which is a commercial farmers union made up of Afrikaners. They're the ones that are saying, yeah, that's not really a real problem. Okay. There were 32 farm murders in 2024. It was down 50 in 2023 and 43 in 2022. Even they've disputed that there is a white genocide that is happening in South Africa. Okay, period. So, not a problem. It's not a real thing, not a real problem. Okay, and so look, here's the thing. This meeting was supposed to be originally about trade tariffs, right? But Trump turned it into a clown show because, that's what he does. At one point, Ramaphosa was like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you. To which Trump responded, oh, I wish you did. No, I'd take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it. Yeah, I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would. To which the South African president had responded, oh, okay. I mean, what do you do with that? What do you say to that situation? Okay. And look, it's not like this guy didn't bring Trump a gift, all right? He brought him a book about South African golf courses, okay? So it's not like he didn't try to make a good, impression here and to push back against the nonsense that Trump was spewing about so-called white genocide. But again, it was obvious that this was Zelensky all over again, all right? That whole thing. So total clown show. But you know what? What do you expect when you elect a circus? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.